threat of disaster is never pleasant.
Welcome to the Casual Preppers Podcast.
These safety measures are essential.
The only place for prepping, survival, and entertainment.
This will be your source of survival instructions and information. Every member of the family must be coached in the business of survival.
Here are your hosts, Cam and Kobe.
Hello.
Cam, I don't know how this happened.
I don't either.
But here we are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Let the people know. Who do we have on today?
Man, so legendary author, like Hunter, producer, Jim Shockey was, so nice to give us some of his time to talk to us about like what he knows. And this dude knows so much. He's experienced he's experienced planet Earth. This is a weird way to put it.
He really has.
He knows like cultures.
Yeah.
He knows how to hunt. He's a writer. He's got a new book coming out.
Right here.
It's just insane, like that we were able to take time and talk to somebody like this.
Man, I literally wish we had like 3 hours with him.
I was in a trance just because he's so good at. He's so smooth and he has like a nice voice that you're like, I'm just listening to all of his stories.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. Yeah. It was awesome to talk to him and hear what he's experienced and his insight and kind of the prepping stuff too.
It was really good.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I would not have thought where he had said where he'd want to kind of settle in an apocalypse. So interesting stuff.
Really good stuff. But this podcast is made possible, guys, by Rhino Ready. Pre-kitted bug-out bags are usually ill-equipped one-stop shops that lack the attention to detail of a custom loadout. Not the case over at Rhino Ready, the truest purveyors of kick-ass survival packs and gear badassery. Their founder, Michael, spent years designing a modular bug-out bag that combined critical survival supplies with performance build quality. After launching on Kickstarter, it took many sleepless nights tinkering on weight distribution, prototype testing, and in-person manufacturer visits to bring their products to life. And I'm going to tell you, this stuff is super high quality.
It's like the Lexus or Mercedes
really
of
is,
prepping gear.
They sell an absolute beast of a pack called the Companion, which you can get fully kitted or you can just build out the pack however you see fit with your own gear. So whether it's to supplement your existing setup or gift a friend or a loved one, you really can't go wrong with Rhino
really
Ready.
love.
You got to really love them. But when you go buy this stuff, when you go to Rhino Ready, that's RINO-ready.com, you're going to use our code. What's our code? Do you remember, Cam?
Cam and Kobe are the best.
Man, that's my favorite code of all time.
I know.
I think.
They did nail that.
Yeah, they nailed it. You're going to get $100 off, and I'm not lying when I say that. $100 off kitted companions. And you're going to get 25% off everything else in the store, plus free shipping to anywhere in the United States. I don't know how you beat that deal.
No, you can't beat that deal.
It's pretty much not beatable. So go check them out, rhinoready.com. That's RINO ready.com. And I don't know. This is a thing that just happened, and so go watch it. It's freaking amazing.
Is insane.
Have fun. All right, Cameron. Man, we are so freaking excited today because we have a hunting legend on the podcast. Who do we have?
Yeah, so today we're going to do 5 questions with Jim Shockey, which is just, I mean, it blows my mind that we're talking to someone as legendary as this, has seen every part of the world. I don't even know what to say. I mean, it's just kind of like star shock here, so.
Welcome, Jim. Thanks for coming on.
You're welcome. Hopefully I will live up to this prior billing.
Yeah.
I think so.
I have no doubt. Like, could you kind of tell our listeners, I'm sure there's a few that maybe don't know who you are, what you do, and how you became the legend of hunting?
I was born to be a hunter, and I honestly think there'll someday identify a gene that, why 10% of us in the population are just hunters. And I think historically it was that. So I think it's who I am, it's innate. So I and also I grew up in the prairies in Canada with our family didn't have a lot of money. So if Dad didn't get a moose every fall, we didn't eat meat. I didn't know you could go buy a cow. Until I was in high school. Yeah. So we ate macaroni if you didn't get a moose. So that was also part of it. Just I wouldn't say subsistence, but certainly, quality of life was a lot better if the hunter, side of our family produced. I've always, my earliest memories are of catching earthworms and beetle bugs. I was probably 2 years old, then gophers and mice, and then rabbits, and graduated to deer eventually. And then when I, really got into the hunting and started to understand the spiritual side of it, I realized there's kindred spirits around this entire world that feel the same. And it doesn't matter kings, queens, or paupers. When you're born with that, it's who you are. I mean, I can be with a warlord in Pakistan, and if you're a hunter, he's not going to kill me because you're a hunter. If he's not a hunter, he's going to probably kill me if he's opposed to my Western way of life. But I realized early at the age of 10, I was going to do this museum, and part of the museum is natural history. It's the Hand of Man Museum of Natural History, Cultural Arts, and Conservation. So you can't just go buy these things. You actually have to go hunt them and bring them back from around the world. And by the way, that noise you're hearing is my 107-pound dog, 1-year-old dog, chewing.
Wanting to be in on this?
Yeah, she's chewing something in her edit suite. The guys will, no doubt, it's a $500 thing. But,
Of course.
But for me, I realized early that you get one life, and you better, don't waste it. You don't get a second chance at it. So I loved hunting.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't I spend my life doing that? And hunting for me didn't mean killing something. A lot of people equate hunting with just that. It's not at all. Hunting is a lifestyle, field to table living, healthy. You're organic. We're the original green people. We and it also encompasses all the cultures and the family, the camaraderie, the friendships, the stories, the traditions. All of these things are part of hunting. The kill that our mainstream media focuses on, they're missing what hunting's all about. It's that's a tiny fraction. It's like saying watching I don't know, a race car, NASCAR race is all about the windshield. It's not. I mean, that's a tiny part of it, but that doesn't make a NASCAR race interesting. And that's the same thing for hunting. So I've always been, and I traveled. I wrote stories. That's how I financed it to begin with. I've written over 1,000 articles for periodicals, photography. Then video cameras came in, and then I started taking people into wilderness areas like the Yukon. We've got my outfitting territory up there is 12,000 square miles, so it's over 7.5 million acres, and there's not a single road. Not one road in that entire area. You go in one of our airplanes for an hour and a half, and you will not see a house or a road. There's nobody lives there. It's just
That's amazing.
Our cabins. There's a few trapper cabins along, here and there, and the odd mining operation. But it's as remote, the last remote wild wilderness left in this world.
Wow.
And so to me, that's all what hunting's about, and I've just lived my life to embrace that lifestyle.
Yeah.
To live it.
I got to say, you are an amazing storyteller, and I have to thank you because in my day job, one of my other day jobs, I do help manage a small filmmaking team. At one point years ago, we're like, let's do some of these hunting films. We're here in Utah, and we're primed for that type of thing. And I've had a little bit of experience hunting. My dad was a hunter. My grandfather was a hunter. I had done a little bit of it myself, but not much. And I was trying to figure out, well, how do we tell these stories through film in a way that it's not just because I had seen, the guys in the Midwest sitting in a tree stand doing some whispering, waiting for the whitetail to come in. But I'm like, I don't really want to do that kind of thing. And I got so lucky because somebody sent me a link one day to Uncharted. And I started watching that series, and it just blew me away because it felt like something so different from the things that I was used to seeing in the hunting world. And it kind of showed me a new way to tell those types of stories. So like you really did open some stuff up for me professionally in my career. So I have to thank you for that. That's like absolutely amazing.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, Uncharted was, I think that was our flagship show, Uncharted and Uncharted Yukon. We had the professionals before that morphed into Uncharted.
Yes.
But, first opportunity in our outdoor television world to do 1 hour episodes. And it's hard, to be fair to the Midwest guys in their tree stands. How do you tell a story? You have 17 and a half minutes out of the 30-minute spot. So what can you do, and let's face it, the culmination of a hunt is the animal coming in and you get them or don't get them.
Yeah.
But, so, to be fair, they didn't have the opportunity. And we had a secret weapon. We had our son, Brandlin, who's just genius. I mean, crazy talented. If I had this much of his talent, that much of his talent, I would be insufferable. I'd be strutting around like Mick Jagger, like he. And so he on the videography side, and he just was genius. Storytelling, I tell stories. That's what I've always done. So, I think the combination really, really worked. But I don't want to say that it was me because I was a part of that. I was a cog in that wheel. But our son Brandlin was instrumental in moving the goalposts. Yeah, he set a standard for our industry and for outside our industry for people to tell stories. I even see someone, one of those chef guys, has taken our Uncharted title and put his name in front of it. I was giggling. I even saw a movie recently with, I think, Marky Mark, whatever his name is, Uncharted. It's like, that television series reached a lot of people outside of our hunting industry. Yeah. And right down into Hollywood because of the storytelling.
Yeah, amazing cinematography. Yeah, Brandlin I've been following him for a really, really long time. I love watching his Instagram and the things he's got going on. Like, amazing. So yeah, that was a big influence to me. So I was really excited to get you on just to be able to tell you that and to talk with you about this stuff. But then we saw, hey, you have a new venture going right now. Like I said, you've been telling stories your whole life through hunting and film and some nonfiction articles and things. So what made you decide to sort of delve into this world of a fiction novel? That seems like an insane leap to me.
Yeah, to me, that was what I was living my life for. When I was 10, and I'm serious, I grew up in a trailer park just outside of Saskatoon. And when I was 10, I decided that I would create a museum. Didn't have a name for it, didn't know how I'd be able to afford it because we had no money. Yeah. But I would do a natural history museum, and I knew what would be in my museum. I had National Geographic. I could, I'm going to go there, I'm going to collect this, I want to see these people, I want to do this. So I started on that goal, which, I'm 65 now, so 55, more than half a century on that goal. But at the same time, I started writing my first novel. I knew I would be a novelist. I was a fanatic reader by the age of 10. At 8 I couldn't read at all, but by 10 I was reading whatever university level novels. Maybe not so much literature, but J.A. Hunter, his book. I had spent more time in detention in grade 5 because I was not reading whatever C. David Cronin, C. Jane. Yeah, I was reading J.A. Hunter, in Africa, in Kenya. So I started my first novel then. I actually wrote, I don't know how many pages I got into it, and I used to hide it. By then we had a house. Dad and Mom had a house, and I would hide it behind a brick in our planter. And where it should have actually been mulched into the planter, it was so bad. I mean, I realized then that I did not have a story to tell. And if you're a novelist, there's two ways you can do it. You can go to university and have English Lit degree, and then you go out and you start writing your first great American novel. But you're making everything up, or you're telling somebody else's story in just because you researched their story, but it's not your story. And I realized I was never going to tell anybody else's story. I was going to tell my story, which meant I had to live a life first. So I started living, and always with this novel in mind. I penned the first lines of Call Me Hunter in about 1993. Wow. Zhivago is dead. I hunted him down and I killed him. Yeah. And I that first page, I wrote that in 1993. And I started, writing the next page, and then I thought, I still have not lived enough to have a story to tell. And I just put the pedal to the metal and lived for another 30 years before I picked up those lines again.
Wow.
Zhivago was dead. I hunted him down and I killed him. So it's, the process for me, it's not like Eureka, I decided to write a novel. I've been writing this novel for 55 years.
Wow.
But I had, again, that's the second way to write a novel, is you live first and then you have a story to tell. I mean, Jack Carr, he's look what he did, in the military. I mean, he's got a story to tell because he's walked the walk. Yes, there's fiction, but there's also the reason the fiction works is because it's really quite real, and that's the same for me. The only way I could write a novel was to live life first, and then I've got more stories to tell than an army, pardon the cliche. But,
well, it does seem like there's a lot of you in this book, right?
Yeah, I would, if I had to stick it in a genre, I would stick it in an autobiographical, fictional, abstract thriller. So
Where do they keep that section at Barnes and Noble somewhere over by the section, right. Maybe?
That'd be the only book on that shelf.
Yeah.
That's part of the conundrum with Call Me Hunter is, they're looking at it going, what is this? Because it's not a thriller. I submitted it originally to 10 literary publishers. So they publish, snooty literature because it's actually, if someone starts to break it apart and look at it from a technical side, it's literature. But they all Googled me and said, this guy, it's impossible for someone like that.
Outside of,
he can't be smart enough, I think, or not down and out enough, or he's too much of a celebrity, I think was the excuse they used, but they didn't even read it.
Wow.
So then we had to look at commercial fiction and what category do you stick it into? It's a new thing, so they put it in commercial fiction thriller category.
I mean, I think there's definitely thriller aspects to this. There's mystery. There's so much. And, I'm a huge fan of, I think you even mentioned some Michael Crichton in the book, I'm a huge fan of Michael Crichton and Dan Brown. And I kind of felt a little bit of that throughout this book.
That's a massive compliment for me, by the way, Dan Brown and Michael Crichton. Those guys, Michael Crichton was, and Dan Brown too, but Michael Crichton was fairly vocal about it. He was out there, he's Hollywood.
Yeah.
And him talking about writing, fascinating guy. I mean, I've met him, talked to him.
Oh, wow.
It's in the novel.
That.
Actually, if you when you're reading in the novel, that's, he figures into this Call Me Hunter.
Yeah. I thought that was really cool. That was really cool. It seems like this was meticulously researched. There's so much stuff that I learned throughout this I had no idea about. And I'm a sucker for anything sort of conspiratorial or secret society type stuff. And there was lots of just great stuff like that in this. So I was engaged throughout. I thought it was a blast. And it's cool to know that you've been sort of, stewing on this plot and everything for that long. It's just really cool I'm sure it's really cool to finally see it here, in black and white for you.
Yeah. I mean, it's, I wouldn't say it's a dream because it was a goal.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's, I finally get to be what I know I have been my whole life. It's just nobody else knew that.
Yeah.
So now they can read it, and there's so much truth in there, and when you talk about conspiracy and secret societies, I had an interviewer asked me the other day, does our world exist? And I said, of course it does. Of course it does. And just look around you.
Yeah.
Look at the tenets of our world. Greed, avarice, the corruption, the covetousness. And look around. And do you see that anywhere? You don't have to look very far to see someone looking over your shoulder and controlling us, and that's our world. It's a metaphor. It's a metaphor for our reality and our world today.
Yeah.
So yeah, you bet it's real. 100% it's real.
Yeah.
Very, very wealthy people running this world. And if something happens to me, an untoward event, you can you guys. That's right. You guys heard it here first. Please report it. Because it may look like it's an accident, but sure, conspiracies. What it's you're only paranoid if they're not actually chasing you. Well, they're out there on all of us.
Yes, man. That's so awesome. And there was some really fun little subtle jabs to some sort of, some wokeness in our modern society, which I thought was kind of a blast. I know. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. We're not going to talk about
no, don't. I'm joking about that. It needs to be exposed.
Yes.
But the problem is you don't dare say it.
Yeah.
But a fictional character in a work of fiction saying it to someone who's also a fictional character in that work of fiction. I mean, if you're that, awake, that's offensive. Oh my goodness! Then you truly have 1984.
Yeah.
Big Brother, and you're not. You're burning books. Fahrenheit 458 or whatever it is. You're trying to destroy ideas when they're in their nascent form because they could grow to be something that opposes your ideology. But in today's world, there's no right and there's no wrong other than what we all know, every one of us, you, me, everybody listening, and everybody that doesn't listen to this kind of podcast. We all know what's right or wrong intrinsically.
Yeah.
You just know that this is wrong to go beat up on this, whatever. It's wrong.
Yeah.
But everything else is cultural perspective, how you were brought up, where you were brought up, your religion, even what you eat. I mean, that's all cultural perspective. It's horrible to eat grasshoppers. Well, I've eaten them; they're great. It's cultural perspective.
Yeah.
And that's what we fight to the death about nowadays. And it's that's that division. We're not tolerating other points of view, and this world is too small now. There's nowhere to go. Are you going to go to the moon? Colonize the moon? You can't do it. It's not going to happen, not realistically. So we better start tolerating other points of view and saying, yeah, okay, I don't understand. It doesn't work for me, but that person hunts and kills their deer and butchers it up and eats it. I eat a cellophane packaged hamburger that wasn't a real animal in my opinion, but those guys say it is real, whatever. Let's just agree to get along.
Yeah.
So that's part of what the subtle jabs you're saying there. I was giggling the other day because a reviewer, and this they're agenda driven people that are trying to promulgate their own ideologies, but they read up to the line. Now, this is a fictional character in a fictional book. A girl saying about one of her workmates that he was what did I call him, or what did she call him? Was an insipid, gender confused millennial with a man bun. And this person, their review, they gave Call Me Hunter a 0, and they said I did not even read further than that, because any book that would say that. It's a fictional character talking about a fictional character. And I know what happens to both fictional characters in the next novel, the sequel to it. I know it's all a setup for the second one, that she's misreading this guy. And this person, will be proven. Again, it's all about messing with people's perspectives, creating cognitive dissonance.
Yes.
But this person was so closed-minded, so intolerant, that they wouldn't even read past that. And they tried to butcher it for anybody else, spoil their opportunity. And therein lies the biggest problem we have nowadays is people abusing their positions, to like I say, promulgate their own ideology. So it's kind of a sad statement on our world right now. But that's why the subtle little jabs in there. And they're, what? We sit here smugly listening, the insipid millennial comment, because we're not. But wait, we're wrong. Like this is the whole idea of to me of capturing somebody in like I say, it's like quicksand, and if you fight against it, or you're just going to sink deeper into the hold of this novel and the next one, and this is where I guess I entertain myself by putting those little jabs. But wait, we also have to be open-minded that think our way, whatever our way happens to be. So we also can't be smug and say, oh, you see that person, now you subtly jab them. Well, guess what?
Right.
You're going to get it too, and and I'm going to get it. It's because again, there's no right or wrong. It's about tolerance in today's world, and that's ultimately, hopefully, what people will take away from this novel.
Yeah, that's so awesome, and I'm really glad to hear that there's a sequel already in the works. Right? That's very exciting.
Yeah. I always envisioned it as three books because it's a long story. I've been going for a long time since I was 10. So I there's no way I could finish it in one novel. In fact, I could have written 1,200 pages and then put the end.
That's a lot of time. But
you can't do that because apparently nobody reads novels that are this thick.
Yeah,
they're too expensive to print and nobody reads them. So yeah, and it's not that there will be a sequel. I just haven't finished telling the story.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. Can you tell us when does this come out? When can the people find it?
October 17th. Anybody can pre-order it right now. Is this podcast live? I don't even know.
This will go out on Monday, so
Monday. Okay, yeah. So they can pre-order it right now when this podcast is airing. They can go online and get it. That way, for sure, they get a copy of it, and it'll be delivered. They can buy it from Chapters, Amazon, Barnes and Noble. It's in all of them. So they can pre-order, or I think it hits the bookstore shelves on October 17th. Beautiful. So that's coming up pretty quick, 10 days or whatever.
Yes.
Well, from right now, a week from the podcast.
Well, that is so exciting. I hope it all goes well. I'm sure it's going to. We recommend this book wholeheartedly. It was a fun read. I'm a huge reader. I love thrillers, and this one really, it did it for me. I had a blast. So thank you so much. Moving on. So we are... we're a prepper podcast. We talk about survival. We talk about lots of crazy stuff. And boy, I'm sure you've got some stories to tell us. And I seriously, I've been so excited to ask some of these questions to you, just knowing the things that you've gone through in your life. So
we had so many.
Oh my, yeah, we had a list.
No, let's do this one. No, let's do this one. Just
what are we going to ask you?
Yeah, we could ask you.
Yeah, ask away. I'm all ears and hopefully all mouth after you ask the question.
You've gotten yourself into some crazy situations over the years with animals, with people, with terrain. Can you tell us, what's one of the craziest survival situations that you've ever faced?
Here in the museum, we've got, first of all, lots of encounters with animals, where I was definitely the softest thing around and the animals coming to kill you. Yeah. I've been a cougar attacked me a few years back.
Oh my gosh.
Crazy. It came at me. I just literally turned and shot from the hip as it was leaping.
I saw that video just recently.
Yeah, and that's legit. I'd seen it cross the logging road, and we were walking, and I said, just keep the camera on. We might see him up the hill. Yeah. And here on Vancouver Island, there's a lot of cougars. There's the hunting season is 6 months long. We're allowed 2 cougars per season because they're trying to, they will take a child or, somebody every, few years up here. And so, the population is high. Mm-hmm. And so I had a cougar tag and I was walking along and I told the cameraman, keep the camera rolling, keep it wide. We might see him up the slope in the logging slash. And that's not what happened. The cougar actually waited for us. And as I walked past looking up the slope, he made one jump and then a second jump, and that's when I turned and bang, just shot like that. And otherwise, I wouldn't be talking. Yeah. And the cameraman got it all on camera.
I don't know how he caught all that because it was so fast.
Yeah. Oh, it was. I think we tied. It was like 1/10 of a second.
Yeah.
So the reaction to when you can shoot but the cameraman, he had enough of a reaction time to go like that, and so he caught it all. So there's no. this isn't me just telling an old wives' tale.
Yeah.
This is the truth.
Yeah.
And I've been charged by Cape Buffalo and hippos and elephants, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But your job is, I'm here because I'm good at my job. That's my job, is to protect my client and protect myself. So I don't know. I don't consider those close calls, because they're only close calls if you're crappy at your job. And to be fair, there's times, no matter how good you are. My good friend Mike Fell just got hooked by a Cape Buffalo here this year, and he's the best of the best. I mean, he makes me look like a kindergarten kid. He's that good, and he got it. It's just sometimes things happen. But the closer calls to me are always the human ones, because we don't react necessarily the same way every single time. The good thing is we are still animals at our core.
Yeah.
And so behavior is behavior for a species, and you can predict it. I mean, in the museum here, I have a picture of me with some Mercy tribal men on the smuggling line between Somalia and Sudan. And we bumped into them. Now, I'm armed,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
with a muzzleloader usually, but they had AK-47s, and they're bad actors. Like, life has no value in those parts of the world where you're there. It just really doesn't. My sunglasses are worth more than my life.
Yeah.
And that the little leader, he was a tough-looking little brute. He walked right up with his AK-47 and plucked my sunglasses from my face, and then turned to his buddies. And well, at that point, they're heavily armed, but I'm armed, so it's like two apex predators meeting at a water hole.
Yeah.
Okay. One of us and he made the first move. Well, so when he turned around, he was kind of smirking at his buddies, knowing that, okay, well, next I'll take his hat, next I'll take his shoes, then we'll just do whatever we want with him. When he turned around, I reached and I popped his gree necklace off his neck. And I went like this, and I went like this. Hey, good. And I pointed at the sunglasses on his face, and like this. Good trade.
Yeah.
And I wasn't afraid, because fear is a horrible waste of an emotion when you should be reacting. You can't feel fear, and I didn't. I just said okay, and that's animal behavior, because I was displaying, he was displaying, and my message back to him was say, okay, you did that. I did this right back at you, at this point. And you don't know if my next move is all in or not. You want to try and escalate it, like push me?
Yeah.
I'm going to kill you. That you don't know that. It's very simple human or animal behavior. One of us is going to get hurt really badly here in the next few seconds, and one of us is going to get killed. And here's the problem: we don't know who's who. Are you going to be the one that's going to get killed? Yeah. Which I guarantee he would have been. Or am I going to be the one that's going to get killed? Are you going to get badly hurt? Either way, we kind of lose. This is going to turn into a shit show here real quick, depending on your next move. And so, those are those kind of situations, and I was all in. Let's go. I can shoot quick, and like I say, he would have died, but I would have died.
Right.
Because it would have been just bang. But those kind of situations, those are the closest calls with humans. And it's funny, another sort of variation on that. I was asked one time in an interview, and our daughter Eva was there in the interview, and the interviewer asked me, what's the closest call you've ever had? And I said, well, the truth is, the closest calls are the ones where I didn't take the next step. I backed out of a situation, so the closest call never happened, because spidey senses went off, survival instincts kicked in, and I didn't take that next step. I stopped, said, something's really, really wrong here. You just know it, and you back out. And and she looked at me and said, "That is the lamest answer for the most. There's nothing exciting about telling a story about something that didn't happen." But I think if we're truly switched on and tuned into our instincts, the closest calls are exactly that, the ones that we avoid. And I have 5 rules. Every one of my guides knows these rules. You ask them, they'll attention and it's the 5 rules are safety, 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 and safety. and if you live your life based on those rules,
Right.
You cannot mitigate objective dangers. A rock falling off a mountain and you don't hear anything, just all of a sudden, and you're dead.
Right.
Meteorite coming from on heaven, you can't, you can't mitigate those, but you can certainly deal with everything that is under your control. And with those 5 rules in mind, you'll always make the right decision. It's why I'm sitting here. Until I start blabbering about our world, now I'm in public.
Your time's limited now. I mean,
exactly.
computers are no big deal.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about those instincts. I mean, you've probably honed those instincts over the years as you've hunted, but do you think that those instincts translate into other things than just hunting? Like you were talking about the interactions with those humans. Do those things you've learned through hunting, do they translate into other areas of your life?
Sure they do. And I think a big part of it is what hunting does, and the instincts, it creates self-reliance.
Yeah.
Independence, and with that comes confidence. Mm-hmm. You were going to cancel me, really?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Good luck.
You're going to send me home? So that, because of that, you don't have to follow whatever way the wind's blowing, to feel like you fit in, to look for, peer acceptance. You can stand and say, geez, sorry for living, but here I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. And those instincts, when you have that, and that's what the instincts result in is confidence. You're true to yourself. Mm-hmm. You're being honest with yourself. You're who you are. So who cares what anybody else thinks? And it's in the book. It's in the novel.
Yeah.
Who cares? Young hunter, he doesn't care.
Mm-hmm.
He could care less what anybody else thinks. They think he's slow. He doesn't care.
Yep.
Like I say, my book, I sent it off to 10 publishers of literature, and they just took one look at that, which I'm looking at myself in your screen here. It's like, I get it. Why they would just assume this guy's a clown in a cowboy hat.
Yeah.
So that's what I think the instincts do, and they're out there. I mean, look at business guys that are good at business. Yeah. They're predators. Mm. They're predators, and now there's kind of benign predators, and there's really aggressive, nasty predators out there, and I'm personifying animals, but I'm applying it in a human sense to these people. These they are animals, so they're using those same instincts, and there's a whole bunch of ungulates out there that they prey on, and so yeah, sure, it translates into real life. Everything you do in the wild that's closest to who we were and who brought us to the table, to how our antecedents lived, the closer you are to that, the more you're going to be in touch with those instincts. And in today's world, it's a valuable tool to have, I think. Look at this. We were talking about Eva. Sorry, guys, but this is, look.
Eva, how are you?
Hi. Well, you don't have to answer your FaceTime when you're busy.
That's
Hello.
what happens. Your dad's just going to throw you on in the middle of it.
Yeah, that's right. I just told the story about how you said it was the lamest answer in the world. The most dangerous situation I've ever been in was the one that never happened. Yeah. So
oh my gosh, that is the worst answer.
So thank you for your cameo appearance. We can let you go now.
Thank you, because I'm in a parking lot. I probably should. Okay, bye. Good luck. Sorry you guys have to talk to me.
Yeah.
Nah, you're welcome on the show anytime.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, leave it to a daughter to jab you in the side when you don't do what she thinks.
Yeah, this is a good answer. No.
Oh yeah. She's I when I do these podcasts, I always keep my phone here because family is most important, and if they're reaching out, then you guys are important. Everybody we're talking to is important, right. but you know what? Ultimately, family is the most important. Yeah. Always has been, always will be, and I think everybody needs to keep that in mind.
100%. I mean, that's Cam and I talk about that all the time. That's pretty much one of the big reasons we do what we do on this podcast, talking about preparedness. Is when we started our families.
It's all about that, yeah.
That's the thing that pushed us into learning how to be more prepared for what might come, whatever it might be. And so it's always been a big push for us.
For them and us 1st, and then,
So
it's to that end too, preppies, I didn't even know the word. I've always felt that you should be prepared.
Yeah.
And I never heard the preppies word and until probably COVID.
Yeah.
Was the first time I heard anything about it. I think there was a movie about a guy that had a whole bunch. I watched the movie one time too. The first time I heard that. But I think it's everybody's responsibility if you're looking after your family to have a year's worth of food on hand. We do. Yeah. We always have. Always. And I'm not talking about freezer food. I'm talking about freeze dried, vacuum packed. It's there, and you can survive a year for sure on that. And if you ration it, you can last longer. I mean, people that think that this world we've established and built is built like a pyramid. Yeah. It's not. It's built like that kind of a pyramid. And it wouldn't take much. I mean, I've seen it around the world. The supply chain, computers go down, cell phones go down, and the world basically ends as we've created it right now.
Yeah, and still.
Now you've got AI coming on board. I mean, I think it's absurd for anybody. Listen, everybody, carefully to what I'm saying. I'm 65 years old, and there's nothing in this for me. But I think it's absurd if you're not prepared for you and your family for at least a year to look after yourselves. And there'll be just a side story to that. I won't mention names, but someone was talking to a neighbor who's a very capable warrior, like trained warrior. And they were all talking about they had their food and they had their guns, and they said, "How are you prepared?" He said, "I don't need to be prepared because I'm just going to take all your stuff." And this is, if anybody thinks that we're not animals, we are. We just pretend we're civilized, and we have the luxury of being civilized, which is, it's a wonderful luxury. Look at our world, but like I say, it's naive.
It is.
It's really, really naive, and it may not happen in your lifetime, but bad things never happen until they happen. And they haven't happened yet, but that doesn't mean they're not going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
And maybe it's my conspiracy thoughts again, or just, but I've got this book tour starting next week, and I'm just going, this would be just the right timing for something, world events and it's a totally spoiled opportunity for Call Me Hunter. Now it's kind of it's self-serving, but it's not, because I think there's lessons in Call Me Hunter that are important for everybody to at least, read and hopefully, make an attempt to understand. Yeah. So it's going to happen. You guys are 100% right. Absolutely 100% right. And anybody that denigrates what you're doing and the warning calls that you're giving, you may be early by a couple generations.
Who knows?
But nobody knows. Yeah. Nobody knows. And I'll tell you what, you don't have to go very far back in history to see similar situations where people that were, thinking this was never going to happen, and suddenly, you've got the Warsaw Ghetto. Yep. Yeah. And remember who took all the food away from the people that were prepared. All this, like I say, anyone that thinks we're so civilized is just hasn't traveled.
Yeah, it's a facade for sure. Like it's something that could drop away in an instant. And we talk about those big events, these big SHTF events that could happen, that could just like take down the grid. There's a lot of things, but one of the things that we like to preach to is kind of like your own personal apocalypse. What are the things that are going to happen to you that you should be prepared for? Maybe not the entire society as a whole, but maybe you lose a job. Maybe the power is out in your area for 2 to 3 weeks, which happens. Right? Maybe your car breaks down. So
you're always prepared for those.
Yeah, we're talking about those big events, and yes, you need to have a year's worth of food, and you need to have a way to purify water and all these other skills, but you also want to get your family comfortably through those little tiny crises that happen to you and your family, So there's a wide array of things to look at.
Like what you said, it's I mean, it really shouldn't even be a thing. It shouldn't even be a thing to be a prepper, or there's a group of preppers. Like you said, it should just be. I grew up as my family always having food storage and everything. I didn't know it was a thing to be a prepper. I mean, I think that's new, but like everybody should just naturally be prepared for.
Sure, and that comes down to self-reliance.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to be able to look after yourself and your loved ones, family. Again, it comes down to family.
Yes.
So and I think it's a great, the messaging that you guys are giving is fabulous.
Thanks.
Like, it really truly is, because it doesn't have to be that cataclysmic event that wipes out the whole world. It can be just like you say, power out for 3 weeks. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? Water. Where are you going to get water?
Yeah.
All these things. And I mean, we live in the country. I mean, I picked 600 pounds of apples the other day.
Wow.
And 350 pounds of grapes. I put away all our garlics I have garlics for the winter. All of our tomatoes are, prepared and ready.
Yeah.
I mean, we live a field to table lifestyle in the country. I can't imagine living on the 15th floor.
Oh, yeah.
A high rise
Exactly.
in a city with a million other people that are going to be in the same boat as million. There's 3, 5, 6 million people that will be in the same boat as you. I mean,
Yeah.
what are you going to do? Where are you going to get water? You have to, so to be fair, it's almost impossible for people that live like that to accept what you're saying, because as soon as they accept it, they realize the very foundation of their life and their existence is being shaken.
So true.
Because they can't store food for a year.
No.
They can't have water purification. They're not going to have any water. They can't. How are you going to get down the elevator? How are you going to get past all the thugs that are trying to take everything you have, including your clothes, because you can't get clothes? I mean, all these things. So they can't think of that. They just have to believe that no,
It's not gonna happen.
everything's good.
Yeah.
And the way we live is good. They have to. So your I think your messaging is wonderful. I think that there's a lot of people out there that it disturbs them.
Yeah.
Great. Again, back to cognitive dissonance.
Mm-hmm.
They have an idea and you're telling them something that doesn't fit here because it means they have to move out of the city somewhere to be able to survive.
Right.
And that means losing their job, and that means starting all over in the big bad country, in a rural situation that they know nothing about. So we're humans, and we're going to ignore the messaging because it doesn't fit with the way we live our life. But still, I think you're doing a great service. Hopefully, one person out there right now is going to be prepared for their family, whatever that event is, losing a job, like you say, car breaking
We
down.
hope so too.
Are they prepared? Are they wearing their $600 Gucci loafers, driving through a snowstorm in the mountains in Utah? I mean, it happens. Yeah. It's just shocking, but it still happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They got a suit and tie on, and the car breaks down, and a snowstorm comes, and they can't walk out. They can't sit.
Exactly.
They're hosed. So it's. Yeah, I think you guys are doing a great service.
Well, thanks. Yeah.
You can say that once again for my wife. Hopefully she's listening. We're doing a great service, babe.
Yeah. And with that being said, like how we think about that too. We try to apply some of these prepper concepts to people that live, downtown, like in those, but it's harder. And obviously I wouldn't want to be in that situation when things really went south. So, and that was a question we had for you is you've been around the world. I mean, more than anybody I think I've ever listened and watched. I mean, what kind of people you would, that live in certain areas, what kind of animals are in different areas. Where would you prefer of all places if it, in an apocalyptic scenario or situation, where would it be on planet Earth that you would want to, ride it out? Do you think it's best for...
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's a really loaded question too, because where I'd like to be, I wouldn't be able to survive. Mm-hmm. And the place I think we have to be, most of us wouldn't survive, and you have to be as far away from the masses as you can.
Right.
You just have to be, and that means, the more remote you are, the more challenging it is to exist. That's why it's remote. Why isn't the Arctic covered in people? Well, because only the Inuit can survive up there, and have for 10,000 years. So they will survive whatever happens. Those people are incredibly capable. I mean, I've spent a lot of time up in the Arctic, in dog sleds and snow machines and boats and with the Inuit people on it. Truly, I think the most resourceful and how can I say it, philosophically oriented towards surviving. I got trapped in a blizzard one time trying to get to Hope Lake from, it's Kugluk was the place we were coming from. At the time they called it Copper Mine, but it was a fall and an early blizzard, so there was no packed snow underneath. It was snow was just coming, down. We had one tent, we jettisoned everything off the Comatix. We had one sled left and 3 machines and only enough gas to fill one machine to try and get back. They sent 2 rescue teams out to us. The first one turned back 20 miles from Kugluktuk, and the other, and we had single sideband radios in those days, so we could, it's really crazy listening to those radios. Now we have sat-tel phones, but the second rescue party got bogged down. They couldn't go anymore because the snow was too deep and fluffy and horrible conditions. You can't see whiteout conditions. 6 days, and finally one of them, John Franklin, he volunteered from our group to take one snow machine to try and meet that rescue party and lead them back on the track. He went out into the wild and it was, he found them. They came back in the middle of the night. It was, when I saw the first snow machine coming over top, it was, we're safe. But the Inuit, they have this perspective that home is where you are. So we have to get to the grand opening. We got a ballet to attend. My flight leaves in 3 hours. That's how we run our lives. They don't. Here's where I am. Home is where I am. I don't need to go. I can just sit here, and we'll sit here. We're not going to die, not for a while. So what's the big panic here? So they are just. The mentally and physically, I've seen them working in 40 below weather, legit ambient temperatures, 40 below, with no gloves on, working on their snow machines with holding metal pieces. And, I've seen them take strips of walrus hide, and cut it to the right shape and take it out and then freeze it onto the whatever part they're trying to weld together. Oh my God. And that's their weld. That's what they do. They just, and you take away the snow machines and canvas tents, they just go to igloos and dog sleds again.
Amazing.
They are I tip my hat to those people. So back to your original question, that's where I'd want to go. That's the only place I think you can go. And the problem is we wouldn't survive. The environment has to predicate who can survive there, and they can, we can't. But that's where I'd want to be, and then ask them to look after me or teach me real quick. But I'm not even built the right way. Bergman's rule. I'm not thick enough. I'm not, solid enough. That's where I'd go. To the very outer reaches of civilization, and as far away from the rest of the world, eating each other, than you could possibly be.
That makes sense. The question before about crazy situation, I had a feeling it was going to be with another human animal. That it wasn't going to be an animal itself. It was going to be with a human. Yeah, because you live around and you've been, and hunted all types of animals. I knew that the one that probably was the craziest thing you encountered was another person. And that makes sense why you're like, no, I'm going to get out as far as possible away from civilization. So,
sure, there's 7 or 8 billion of us on this world now.
Yeah,
so just by sheer numbers, you're going to be exposed to a bad situation to a human being. Rather, mind you, there's 25 billion chickens in this world, so maybe a bad chicken will come after you.
Hey, I've seen a fair share of bad chickens in my life, but
Yeah, they're the greatest survivalists of all. There's 25 billion of them.
There's a lot
I mean,
of them.
they've taken over the world. They know that, hey, we live kind of a crappy life laying eggs in this cage, but we're alive.
Yep.
Yeah.
And let's, for the greater good of our species, just lay your eggs, and when the time comes, some of us will escape. And there's wild chickens, and I've seen them in Hawaii.
Wow.
Flying around like they fly. They're chickens.
Wow.
Like they replaced whatever birds were down there, birds of paradise or whatever
Yeah,
they had.
that's
Well, they wouldn't have them there, but and there's chickens. So yeah, chickens are the best survivalists of all if you go by sheer numbers.
Well, put that one on
I
the
never
list.
thought
Check it
about
off.
that. Yeah.
That's a good answer. So we've got a couple of questions that we ask everybody that comes on the show. These ones are kind of fun, so just have a good time with these. This one: what conspiracy theory do you find the most interesting and entertaining, and why?
Well, I mean, I'm a product of. I was born in the '50s, so Kennedy.
Yes.
I've seen. You couldn't not. I remember coming home, my mom being in tears.
Yeah.
He's been assassinated. This. So I grew up with that. That's a pretty, and it's still today probably the biggest conspiracy theory of all.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, at least of our times. I'm sure that you go back in the Inquisition times, there was, you want to talk conspiracy theories? Holy cow!
Yeah.
What was the motive of that? But in our modern times, yeah, it's Kennedy. I know that's a boring answer, but it's all this deep state. Like I say, call me Hunter.
Yeah.
Our world exists. And again, anyone that denies that it exists is just being naive or not. I don't know. Maybe they don't live under a rock or don't read newspapers. But to think that there's not organizations and people manipulating, the rest of us, it's just naive. It's naive, and everybody that's listening, take what you're hearing with a grain of salt, because you're not generally hearing both sides of any story anymore. The way I say it is, good news sells for $1, bad news sells for $2, and so these are big corporations that are controlling the media. And you want conspiracy? What's their point?
Yeah,
just to make money.
Yeah.
But money is made by manipulating more and more people, getting them to do something you want, marketing to them. So what are they marketing to us? Of course, the whole thing is a conspiracy when you get right down to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as the classic, Kennedy. I mean, who was behind all that?
Yeah, that's got to be the biggest one of our time for sure.
Yeah.
And one I just don't know if we're ever gonna get any more answers
I've heard
on.
so many different things that I'd heard about it and thought it was okay. This, and then even to today, I hear new theories on that. That's a big one. That's a deep one.
Yeah, I watched that footage. I mean, I imagine we all have and it's enhanced, but it's, as a hunter, there's no way that those two bullets came from the same direction.
Yeah.
It just, when it goes bang like this and then bang like that, that's impact from two different directions. And I don't know. That's just me saying it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And it doesn't, maybe somebody's sitting there going, oh God, the guy really is a weirdo. But, just me, layman, looking at this, that's, handled a lot of guns in my life and seen impacts. You tell me one guy up in a third story somewhere at a moving target did that with open sights. Give me a break. I mean, I'm really good.
Yeah.
I'm as good as I think I've seen anybody on that kind of a shot. And that would have been an incredibly challenging shot, period. So there you go. There's my, you want my take?
That's a good one.
Maybe we'll have to have you back one day and we'll just do an entire episode on the JFK conspiracy. But I would be remiss if I didn't ask this question. You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but you've been out into every woods everywhere. Where is the evidence of Bigfoot?
That's a great question.
Where's it at? Have you seen it?
Yeah. There's a lot of big footies out there. I don't know. They call they call Taylor Swift fans Swifties. So there's a bunch of footies out there, and they're just. I'm going to get so many crappy letters, but here's my reality on that.
Okay.
I've been in a lot of wilderness areas, and in North America. I mean, miles, thousands, tens of thousands of miles. I'm pretty good at what I do, and I have never seen any indication, unless Bigfoot flies.
I don't know that.
And maybe we don't know. Maybe that's that would explain that why I've never seen any sign.
We didn't think chickens flew either, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And now and around the world, I've never seen any sign. And of course I have. You're in camps together in the middle of the mountains in the Himalayas, the Kokshaltao Mountains of the Sun, the Palmyras, the Karakoram Range. All these places a Yeti's supposed to live.
Yetis and Bigfoots, yeah.
Just no sign. Right. Nobody's seen any sign. Now, that all said, everywhere you go, there's the legend of Bigfoot.
Right.
Yeah.
Some variation, Yeti.
Yeah.
They're leaf blowing outside.
Oh, is that what it is?
So there is, to deny that there's not some, tie-in across all of these various cultures across continents. It couldn't possibly be talking to each other.
Yeah.
But is it because there's a human need for legends like that to exist to explain the unexplainable?
Right.
And a quick story on this one. About 40 years ago now, I was there's another partner of mine, but I was on my own in the mountains of British Columbia, very remote, long way. It was like a 30-mile hike to get in there. And I was, just this perfect still morning, and within 50, thick though, and within 50 yards of me, there was this noise, like just made every hair on my whole head stand up. And I mean, it was, I said never feel fear, but that's the closest, I would ever get to feeling fear. It was like it was a dinosaur, and I just froze. And now I was armed. I had a gun. It was hunting season, and I had a choice. You're at one of those points in your life where, and remember my 5 rules: safety, 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 and safety. I wouldn't say I ran away, but I made a tactical retreat.
Yeah.
And I left, and I never told a soul about it. Never, ever, because there's nothing in the woods that make that sound.
Oh my God.
And I know every animal that's out there, nothing makes that sound, at least in my experience. So it was, 30 years later, I was in the mountains again, BC, and I was, and all of a sudden, but this time I could see it. It was an elk.
Really?
And it's not an elk. They don't like it wasn't. It didn't make the classic elk sound. It made the sound that the progenitors of the elk. They're in the central part of Asia is where they come. Kazakhstan is where they actually originate from. And as they went further west, further west, they turned into red stags. Over time, depending on what you believe in evolution or your faith. When they went east, and crossed the land bridge, they turned into the wapiti, and the sound that they make changed.
No idea. Wow.
So the sound that I was hearing, I've heard many times now since, but in Asia, it's called the roar. It's called the roar. So whatever elk it was some throwback. It didn't make the pretty, Brad Pitt. Wee, 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 wee. It was making the, and that's. It was like a huge weight off my shoulder. Like, okay,
I heard.
But if you had asked me if there's a Bigfoot, and because I hadn't seen any sign, but I'd heard this thing that was unexplainable,
That makes sense.
I would have had to say, well, there was this one time, So does Bigfoot exist? I wouldn't say it did exist for me for that time period until I realized what the sound was.
Yeah.
But I would say that I didn't eliminate it as a possibility.
Yeah.
And so I have not seen Bigfoot or any indication, but
Oh, that is awesome. That's a great
That's super
story.
interesting. I
Love
didn't know
that.
that. Yeah.
All right, one more story, Jim, and we'll let you go, or one more question.
Sure.
What is your favorite movie of all time, and why?
Holy cow!
Yeah, I know that's a tough one.
Our family movie, our family movie was Dumb and Dumber.
Oh yeah,
but what I was a Clint Eastwood fan, so Good, Bad, Ugly, all that stuff, and Josie Wales. I mean, these were. He was so super cool until he did Bridges of Madison County, and then Arnold Schwarzenegger. What can I say? I'm a simple, and I love movies.
Yeah.
A good story, a good movie. I find. I can tell you what my least favorite a lot easier are.
Okay, yeah. I'd love to hear that.
I'd hear that too, actually.
Yeah, the these new Marvel comics.
Say new, yep.
Spitting. It's in Call Me Hunter. Nyala says it. They're clad in dragon scales and they blow fire and make ice. It's just the first ones were kind of cool.
Yeah.
Thor and Iron Man was great.
Iron Man was great.
Yeah, those were great. But I just think they're going back to that same well. Sure. They're doing it too much now, and they don't create great movies. Here's a great movie, Autumn Rush. Autumn Rush.
Yeah.
Love it. And I watched the movie the other night, just me and my dog Baby with my bottle of homemade apple wine, and I watched yesterday. The movie yesterday.
It's a beautiful movie.
And cute and Sleepless in Seattle and You've Got Mail.
Oh yes.
I love all these movies. I love romantic comedies.
You've Got Mail is a guilty pleasure for me. I watch that at least once a year.
My mom used to watch them, and I watched them all
90s
too,
Tom Hanks, 90s sort of like those rom-coms. They don't make them like that anymore.
They're good stories.
No, and it's really, I think it's sad because there is love and there is romance out there, and it doesn't have to be so saccharine.
Yeah.
Like we call them chick flicks.
Yeah.
They're just overboard. Harlequin romances. I'm not saying they don't sell millions, and there's not a reason for those too. But like, come on, Hollywood. Like I can write a better love story than that, and look at me. Yeah. I think, and I just might do that. I actually wrote a book over this last year, while Louise and I were going through what we had to go through, and it's in the second pass on the copy editing right now, and I'll probably publish that, self-publish it, get it out there. But we just need a true good love story, and that doesn't mean it's all melodrama and I'm going to jump off a bridge. It can be comedy. Yeah. It can be joie de vivre, joy of life. Like they just don't do it anymore. And I don't know if it's because they're so serious, the writers, about or they maybe the people making the choices on what they think people want to see are just so out of touch. But rom-coms. I never heard that one, but that's what can I say? I'm a sucker. But I also like Predator and
Predator's awesome.
And Terminator, and so I'm all over the place for movies. I like
that.
The Sting.
Great answer.
The Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. I mean, how can they be any better movies than that?
Yeah.
So I've got lots of favorites, and more than we have time to talk about here. But I love all those ones I named.
That's awesome. Well, Jim, seriously, thank you so much for taking some time with us today. Like, this has been a blast. It's been an honor for us to have a conversation with you. Can you please tell the audience where they can find out more about you, what you're doing, and where they can find the book one more time?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we're on all the social platforms. You can go on Instagram. I think it's Jim Shockey Official is with the blue check mark or whatever they call it, and Facebook, Twitter. You can Google me and end up at our website, shockey.com. You can go to our Hand of Man Museum. You can Google, Call Me Hunter, and you can pre-order the book, my novel right now, and it'll be available as well online later on. Like I say, they're pretty hard to avoid finding me if you're looking for me.
Yeah.
Here I am everywhere on social media and online.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
Perfect.
We appreciate you coming on with us.
Yeah, thank you for your time. That was great.
Yeah, and stay survived.
Yeah, I promise I will.